The cabin stood isolated, hidden deep among trees in a forest absent from any map. Samuel and his group of friends had chosen it for their weekend getaway, enticed by the promise of total disconnection. No cell service, no electricity, just them, a fireplace, and the ghost stories they planned to share that night. From the start, something about the cabin felt wrong. In the basement, there was a trapdoor secured with multiple rusted chains and heavy padlocks. Carved into the wood above it were the words, "Never open." Naturally, the warning only fueled their curiosity. "What do you think is down there?" Claudia asked nervously, staring at the chains. "Probably an old generator or some junk from the last owners," Javier replied with a shrug. Samuel wasn't so sure. There was something about that trapdoor that set him on edge, as though something on the other side was watching them. That night, curiosity won over caution. Armed with a crowbar, they broke through the padlocks one by one. With each snap of the metal, a hollow echo reverberated through the cabin like the beating of a distant heart. Finally, the trapdoor creaked open, revealing a staircase descending into complete darkness. An unbearable stench wafted up from below, a sickly mixture of sourness, dried blood, decayed flesh, and something unidentifiable. "This is a bad idea," Claudia murmured, but Javier had already switched on his flashlight. "Don't be a coward," he said, taking the first steps down. The others hesitated, but eventually followed, Samuel bringing up the rear with a growing sense of dread pressing against his chest. The basement was small and damp, its stone walls coated in patches of black mold. In the center stood a metal table littered with rusted tools, knives, saws, and hooks. But what truly caught their attention was a cage in the corner, large enough to hold a human. Inside the cage, something shuddered. "Is it an animal?" Andrea whispered, taking a step back. Javier aimed his flashlight at the cage. The light revealed a hunched figure, its body stripped of skin, exposing raw, twitching muscle. It shuddered as if breathing with great effort. Its sunken, glassy eyes swiveled toward them. Then it spoke. "Too late," it rasped, its guttural voice scraping like metal on stone. The group froze, unable to process what they were seeing. Samuel was the first to move, stumbling back toward the stairs. Suddenly, the trapdoor slammed shut above them with a deafening thud. A wet, squelching sound filled the room. They turned back to the cage to see the figure now standing, its elongated, deformed hands gripping the bars. The flesh on its fingers writhed as though alive. "Hunger," it growled, and with a sharp, metallic snap, the cage's chains gave way. What followed was chaos, a blur of screams and blood. The creature moved with inhuman speed, pouncing on Javier first. Its jagged, distorted teeth tore into his neck, ripping away flesh with a sickening crunch. Samuel would never forget. Claudia shrieked as blood sprayed across the walls. She tried to run for the stairs but slipped in the spreading crimson pool, falling hard. Before she could scramble to her feet, the creature was on her, its clawed hands tearing into her abdomen. Her organs spilled onto the floor as the creature devoured them ravenously. Samuel and Andrea reached the stairs, scrambling up in blind panic. The trapdoor wouldn't budge. Below, the wet crunch of bones and muffled screams filled the air. "Help me open it!" Andrea yelled, pounding on the wood with frantic fists. The creature appeared at the base of the stairs, its glowing, unnatural eyes fixed on them. It climbed slowly, dragging behind it a length of intestine that dangled from its bloodied maw. In desperation, Samuel hurled the flashlight, striking the creature's face. It didn't flinch. With a guttural roar, it lunged at Andrea, yanking her down by her ankles. Andrea's screams dissolved into wet gurgles as the creature sank its teeth into her face, peeling away the skin like paper. Paralyzed with fear, Samuel watched as his friend was reduced to a grotesque heap of flesh and shattered bones. Suddenly, the trapdoor creaked open. Moonlight spilled into the basement, and Samuel scrambled through the opening, slamming the door shut behind him. He bolted toward the cabin's entrance, but froze when he heard a faint whisper. "Hunger never ends." Samuel fled into the woods, running aimlessly until his legs gave out. By dawn, the police found him, soaked in blood and babbling incoherently about a creature that fed on human flesh. When authorities searched the cabin, they found it empty. In the basement, the cage stood intact, its bars unbroken. In the corner, they discovered a mound of clean, white bones piled high. The trapdoor was resealed, but locals claim that on cold nights, if you pass by the cabin, you can still hear faint knocks and whispers from below. And always the same word: hunger.